ABC.
Verdict form, count 1, murder in the first degree after deliberation. Jonathan Blanc, Alexander Boyk, Jesse Childress, Gordon Cowden, Jessica Gowie, John Larimer, Matthew McQuinn, Michaela Medic, Veronica Mosier Sullivan, Alex Sullivan, Alexander Teves, Rebecca Wingo. We, the jury, find the defendant James Egan Holmes guilty of murder in the first degree after deliberation.
It's just good. It's just closure. It's finally over.
165 counts and 165 times the judge saying,
guilty.
For the victims whose lives are forever changed, justice today attached to their names.
Caleb Medley. We, the jury, find the defendant James Egan Holmes guilty.
But that sound doesn't get rid of the memories.
The thing that really never loses you is the shotgun sounds, the screams, the white light of his gun.
And this case is far from over. Now we enter a long sentencing phase. The jury deciding between life and death for the shooter.
I'm live here at the Arapahoe County Courthouse tonight. I and Mark Stewart spoke to victims' families and the survivors. They are sharing their relief and their emotions with us tonight. And 7 News reporter Marshall Zellinger is live with what's next for the trial.
And tonight we want to make sure we remember the 12 lives lost at the theater that night. This afternoon, after a meeting with the DA, the families came out one by one to talk to us. 7 News reporter Mark Stewart was there asking them what's next.
You know, and the actual reading of the verdicts today was perhaps one of the most emotional, most intense moments of this entire 3-year ordeal. Many families do not like the term closure, yet they know what happened today is very significant as they try to move and redefine their lives forward.
We're very happy. Extremely happy with the result today.
Sandy Phillips was satisfied. The man who killed her daughter Jessica and 11 other innocent people inside the Century 16 was found guilty.
We're very happy that this animal, this monster, will never see the light of day.
For the families, the trial has always been about honoring their loved ones.
So this is, you know, just one step.
Tom Sullivan's son Alex was murdered in the shooting spree. He's now leading a fight against gun violence.
At least here in the state of Colorado, we're not, having another trial like this. This should be the last one, folks.
With sentencing now days away, the families want to make sure their loved ones are never forgotten.
She was a little sweetheart.
Including the family of Veronica Mosier Sullivan. At 6 years old, she was the youngest to die in the shootings.
You're talking about the essence of innocence. And she really was a little angel.
The surviving families have created a much larger family of their own. They all gathered together after the verdicts were read. The district attorney walked in, and I'm told the entire team was given a standing ovation. We're live in Centennial tonight. Mark Stewart, 7 News.
And one of the most emotional moments in this entire trial was when shooting victim Caleb Medley was wheeled into the courtroom. He's the man who was shot in the head, was put into a wheelchair because he's paralyzed and can no longer talk. In fact, he had to use an alphabet board to explain what happened to him that night. We were there as his family walked out of the courtroom. We asked Caleb what he thought about the jury's decision tonight, and with the help of his father, this is what he had to say.
Relief.
Said he just wanted it over. Caleb also said he was satisfied with the jury's verdict. His wife and father calling it a bittersweet feeling. They are happy the shooter was found guilty, but saddened they and the dozens of other families impacted by this had to be here in the first place. Caleb's family says, in their words, the prosecution seemed like they were always one step ahead of the defense. Ann?
And with all of the verdicts read today, 6 counts were reduced from first-degree to second-degree attempted murder. Those for 3 victims who weren't in Theater 9, where the other victims were killed. They were next door in Theater 8, where some of the bullets flew during the shooting. So the jurors will now have a long weekend, not reporting back to court until Wednesday. And today we learned some more about them. Their foreman, juror number 737, who was sitting in seat number 17 in the lower left corner, he went to Columbine High School. He survived the shooting there. 7 News learned today, growing up, he was actually friends with the gunman in that case.
That sound was charge number 141, the explosives found inside the shooter's apartment. That is why there were 165 charges, not an even number as you might think there would be, since there were 2 charges for each victim. For all of the other 164 charges, the shooter now faces the death penalty, and that is sure to take a toll on the jurors. Many of them crying today, but their job is not done. The sentencing phase is just about to begin. 7 News reporter Marshall Zellinger was in the courtroom today, and Marshall, the jurors weren't the only ones showing emotions today.
Yeah, I was watching the shooter's parents when that first guilty verdict was read. When I walked in, the shooter's dad had a box of Kleenex in his lap, and when that first guilty verdict was read, no reaction by either of them. But by count 118, I started to see Mom hold back some tears. It's likely they've accepted that this was likely the case because they had offered a plea of life in prison years ago. So now the real fight begins next week for his life.
We, the jury, find the defendant, James Egan Holmes, guilty.
Even though there were 165 total guilty verdicts, it only took that first one for the theater shooting case to be assured a penalty phase.
You'll be asked to determine what punishment to impose, and you'll have 2 options: life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, or a death sentence.
There are 3 phases to this next section. The first, the jury has to be convinced of specific aggravating factors,
such as there was a child killed or the number of victims.
Would the defendant please stand for the reading of the verdicts?
Based on the guilty verdicts today, it's likely we'll quickly move to phase 2, the mitigating phase, where we'll hear from witnesses again. This time, we'll likely hear from the shooter's friends and family.
An individual who's able to testify regarding either his good character, his history, his mental health history, anything that would potentially help him in this phase.
And the third phase will be the jury deciding life or death.
If you have 11 of the jurors that vote for death, but only 1 votes for life, that means a life sentence for the defendant.
The jurors do get some time off. Court will be in session Monday, July 20th, not with the jurors, however. It will be some instructional dealings between the attorneys trying to firm up some language that the jurors will hear when they begin phase 1 of this 3-phase process Wednesday morning. And you can watch it all, even Monday, on the 7 News app and thedenverchannel.com. And
Thanks, Marshall. And with the chance the shooter could be sentenced to death, tonight we're taking a look at death row here in Colorado. And right now, 3 men sit on death row, all sentenced in Arapahoe County. 2 of them involved in the same case. Robert Ray got the death penalty because he ordered the murder of witnesses who were going to testify against him. The trigger man in that case, Sir Mario Owens, is also on death row. He killed Javad Marshall Fields and Vivian Wolfe. The third man, Nathan Dunlap. Back in 1993, he worked at a Chuck E. Cheese and killed 4 employees. And Dunlap may be the most controversial death row case in Colorado. The governor gave him an indefinite stay because of his mental health after the shooting. Colorado's next governor will decide what will happen to Dunlap.
The man who led Aurora through this terrible tragedy, Police Chief Dan Oates, now works in Florida. But we decided to reach out to him tonight to see if he had anything to say, and he wanted to comment on the sentencing. But since this trial isn't done, the chief is still under a gag order and wasn't able to comment on today's decision.
And even though this is the verdict the families wanted, they may still need someone to talk to. And the Aurora Strong Resilience Center wants to make sure they know they can stop by. Mental health doctors are on hand to talk to anyone. They've been there through the trial and say they saw an increase of patients.
We see people in the courthouse that are impacted or triggered by what's being discussed since the beginning of the trial. So we've certainly seen an uptake with closing arguments and things like that.
The center had extended hours today, and if you need someone to talk to, you can stop by the center. It's on Peoria, just south of Colfax, and it's usually open around 9 a.m. Across the metro area today, people gathered around TVs to watch the verdict. And one place everyone had their eyes on afterwards, the Century 16 Theater in Aurora to see if another memorial would be set up in honor of the victims. And that is where 7 News reporter Molly Hendrickson is tonight. And Molly, for a while, an area was blocked off near the theater.
Yeah, Aurora police and mall security were both prepared for family members of those victims or even community members to come here tonight and hold vigil. They actually blocked off the lower lot here just for that. But you can see it's quiet here tonight. A stark contrast from the days that followed the shooting, where the memorial grew for months outside the Century 16, which was filled with teddy bears, flowers, and a cross for each of those victims. As for a permanent memorial, that's still in the works. The plan is to build a memorial garden at the Aurora Municipal Center, complete with benches, artwork, and pathways. But according to our partners at the Denver Post, fundraising efforts have fallen way short. So far, the committee in charge has only raised about $15,000 of their $400,000 goal. So now they've scaled back, and the budget and plan to raise just about $50,000 for the project. Now, it's still unclear how that will affect their original plans. Fundraising efforts began in December, much later than many had hoped for. Now, keep in mind, following the Columbine shooting, it took 8 years to get that memorial up. We are live in Aurora tonight. Molly Hendrickson, 7 News.
And with all that is going on today, you can't forget that Monday marks 3 years since the Aurora Theater shooting. It was July 20th of 2012, and as a result, several communities are holding events. On Sunday, a memorial service will start at 9 at the Heritage Christian Center in Aurora. Then on Monday, a prayer vigil is planned at the Aurora Municipal Building that will begin at 7. Now, this shooting left behind several mental and physical and psychological scars for the victims involved, and as a result, many of them have tattoos, a permanent reminder of the scars and the marks from the shooting that are left behind.
These were all shrapnel wounds. The day the last scab fell off, I just went and had it tattooed. This was the worst day of my life, and I knew the best man, and I lost him there, and I just was like, I'm never going to forget what he gave me, and he gave me life, and this is the scar I was given from it. And those little scabs weren't enough, I didn't feel like.
Victims, we have to live with it every day. You never know what tomorrow will bring or what will take away. That's for the 12 that lost their lives in a senseless act.
I was there when the shooting happened, and a lot of emotions then and a lot of emotions outside the courthouse today.
Definitely. I hope this brings some peace to those families for sure. Now, a lot of emotion online as well, Eric. A look at how some of the victims' family members reacted today. And one family keeping their son's memory alive. Alex Teaves' family holding a special event in his honor this weekend ahead of the shooting anniversary. 7 News at 10 is back in just 60 seconds.